Rain pounded the sidewalk outside Halberton Materials' gleaming high-rise, a steady rhythm that filled the late-night air with urgency. Inside, the lobby's marble floors reflected the fluorescent lights, but on the 19th floor, reserved for the executive suite, silence reigned. All except for one solitary figure. Gerald Banks, the night shift janitor, moved his mop with quiet precision. He knew these halls better than anyone. Where the grout fractured, which lights flickered, and exactly how long it took for the leather chairs in the CEO's office to cool once she'd left them. Gerald ran his thumb across the glossy wood paneling as he passed. It was ritual and comfort, after everything he'd lost. His career, his family, his life, this routine was his anchor. That night, however, the anchor slipped. As he wheeled his cart past conference room 19B, he heard low voices beyond the heavy oak door. Gerald froze his mop mid-sweep. "The tests are catastrophic, Collins," hissed a male voice that he immediately recognized as Martin Collins. "If D42 fails in the field, we're looking at structural collapses. Residents, tenants, people die." A second voice, clipped and controlled, replied, "Then bury the data, Martin. We already paid off the lab to scrub their servers. Make sure no one on the board sees the full report. We can recall shipments quietly over 6 months. No leaks, no liability." Gerald's heart slammed against his ribs. He pressed his ear to the door, the cold metal against his temple. This wasn't just numbers on a spreadsheet. Lives were at stake. When the voices faded, Collins's footsteps receded and the click of the door lock clicked into place. Gerald exhaled. His mop handle slipped from his sweaty hands. He looked at the polished nameplate, Conference Room 19B. He stood there for 60 seconds, listening to the hum of the building's HVAC system, fighting the urge to bolt. In the end, curiosity won. He slipped a master key, issued to him 3 shifts ago after he'd helped security unclog a sump pump, into the lock, twisted, and eased the door open. The room was empty, but the conference table was cluttered with binders and a small laptop. On the side table lay a single flash drive, labeled D42 in faded black marker. Gerald remembered the conversation. D42, the code name for the new concrete admixture they touted as revolutionary. He pocketed the drive and backed out, his heart hammering louder than the rain outside. Back in the janitor's closet, lined with cleaning chemicals and spare mop heads, Gerald exhaled again, this time into the barrel of his mop. He slid the flash drive into his pocket, grabbed his phone, and dialed the only person he trusted. His daughter's friend, Marcus Lee, an IT specialist. 20 minutes later, in the dimly lit corner of the break room, Gerald watched Marcus navigate the drive's contents on a borrowed laptop. Every chart, every line of code, and every raw data file confirmed it. D42 accelerated concrete weakening under moisture and temperature stress. The independent lab's full report, stamped confidential, for executive eyes only, detailed microfractures forming within days. No one had authorized its release. Marcus looked up, voice barely above a whisper. "This will destroy the company. Are you sure you want to go public?" Gerald's thumb traced the faded logo on his cleaning cart, a stylized broom sweeping away dirt. "I don't want to destroy them," he said. "I just can't stand by and watch them bury people under their greed." 2 nights later, Gerald used a public library workstation to send an anonymous tip, and the entire folder of reports, to local investigative reporter Lana Morales. He left fresh coffee in her newsroom drop box at dawn, then resumed his shift as if nothing had happened. By the following afternoon, Barron News ran the headline, "Whistleblower uncovers a deadly defect in popular building material." They showed snippets of the confidential information Marcus had downloaded from the flash drive. Pictures of the defective material, some video clips, and an expose of Halberton's history. They named the material, the lab, and hinted at boardroom pressure to suppress results. Social media erupted. Halberton went into crisis mode. PR statements flew. Preliminary tests are inconclusive, regrettable procedural lapses. But protests had begun at construction sites across the city. Tenants vacated. Inspectors sealed dozens of buildings overnight. And Gerald? At 3 p.m., he was summoned to Security HQ. The room was smaller than Conference Room 19B, its walls painted sterile white. Facing him sat Martin Collins, arms folded, and next to him, Security Chief Raul Vega, stone-faced. "Mr. Banks," Collins began, voice silky but sharp, "we have evidence you accessed restricted areas, removed company property, and leaked proprietary data. That's a breach of contract and confidentiality." Gerald met his gaze evenly. "I am saving lives." Collins leaned forward. "Your actions caused our stock to plummet. You've cost thousands of jobs." Gerald's jaw tightened. He tried to swallow. "Do you think of people who can get trapped under a collapsed beam? Do you think about their family?" Vega stood, motioning to the door. "Bag his things. Escort him out." Gerald walked out without arguing. The rain outside felt colder on his skin, but he welcomed it. He'd lost his job, his routine, even his anonymity. Yet a flicker of something new had ignited inside him. Purpose. Back in his small apartment, bare except for a mattress and a battered desk, Gerald opened his front door to find a plain white envelope pinned with a single pushpin. Inside, a single line, "Midnight, abandoned warehouse dock on Elm Street. You're not alone." His breath hitched. The dock was the old Halberton fabrication site, shuttered months ago. It reeked of rust and stale air. He stared at the note. His world had been upended. He'd gone public. He'd been punished. Now this strange note. He looked at the photo of his daughter on the dresser, her graduation cap and bright eyes. He thought of her face when she said, "I'm proud of you, Dad." He knew the weight of those words. At midnight, Gerald locked his apartment, tucked the flash drive in his pocket, and stepped back into the rain. Toward the old warehouse, toward whatever waited. As Gerald rounded the corner of the abandoned dock, the beam of a flashlight sliced through the blackness. He stopped dead. Ahead, a figure emerged, wearing a worn lab coat and safety goggles. Someone he never expected to see again. "Gerald Banks," said the voice, low and urgent. "It's me, Elise Tan." He hadn't seen Elise Tan since her last day on the job. The junior engineer had disappeared 2 months earlier. Transferred, they said, after she asked too many questions about D-42's safety tests. Gerald remembered the security van that whisked her away, the look of defeat in her eyes. Now, under a flickering warehouse lamp, she stood before him, taller than he remembered, with determination in every line of her face. "Elise," Gerald whispered, "you're alive." She tucked her goggles into her pocket. "Barely. They tried to destroy my career, but I kept copies. Backups of emails, server logs, everything." Gerald's pulse quickened. Why reach out now? Elisa's gaze darted behind him. "Because they're coming for me. And you're on their hit list too." She held out a USB stick, green plastic faded. "This has the unabridged files. CEO directives, cover-up orders, supplier kickbacks, and proof they falsified the final field tests. We can't stop at halting shipments. We have to bring them down." Gerald's throat tightened. He thought of the rain outside, the boardroom that dismissed him, and the terrified families in evacuated high-rises. "Let's finish this." The wind roared through broken windows as Gerald and Elise crept to a side door. Elise fiddled with a rusted padlock, then smiled triumphantly as it clicked open. Inside, the air was thick with dust and decay, jumbled metal bits littering the concrete floor. They slipped through rows of derelict machinery, ghosts of the company's past manufacturing glory. Overhead, a single bulb swung, casting long shadows. At a workbench, Elise placed the USB on a battered laptop she'd lugged in her backpack. Gerald watched as she connected it. Lines of code scrolled past. Graphs appeared, test charts showing microfractures growing exponentially under simulated storm conditions. He swallowed hard. People died because of this. Elisa's voice trembled. Thousands more will if we don't move fast. By first light, Gerald and Elise met Lana Morales in a cramped news studio. The walls were plastered with clippings, past exposés, awards for investigative reporting. Lana tapped her phone. "We've got a primetime slot tonight. Live panel with me, a building safety expert, and 2 whistleblowers, you and Elise. Gerald's legs felt weak. Live. No edits. Raw truth. Lana locked eyes with him. Ready. He nodded. Bright cameras lined up. A city skyline blazed on the green screen behind them. The red, live icon blinked in the corner of the monitor. Lana spoke into the mic. Good evening. Tonight is an exclusive you'll only see here. A janitor, once fired for exposing a cover-up, returns with new evidence, alongside an engineer who vanishes under mysterious circumstances. Gerald swallowed, his pulse hammered in his ears. They played footage of Halberton headquarters, of the alleged lab and its chief consultant, Elise's picture on her ID badge, and Gerald's picture on his ID badge. Next, the uncut files of test failures and emails from the CEO Elise had managed to produce. Ensure no regulatory body sees D42 data. Lives are secondary to margins. Mr. Banks? Lana asked, turning to him. Why did you do this? He leaned forward, voice steady. Because if someone doesn't speak up, nobody will. I may mop floors for a living, but I won't stand by and let people die for profit. The panel expert nodded solemnly. This is the most damning evidence of corporate negligence I've seen. Back at headquarters, alarms blared as police and regulators flooded the lobby. Employees gathered behind reception glass, watching STL investigators seed evidence markers on the marble. Martin Collins was handcuffed. The CEO, slate-faced, was escorted away in cuffs. Security Chief Vega stared out a window, shoulders slumped. Gerald stepped up to a podium before a crowd of reporters and onlookers. The rain had returned, but this time felt like renewal. Microphones clustered, flashes popped, and live feeds streamed. He cleared his throat. I never set out to be a hero. I just wanted people to be safe. If my actions can help pass laws that protect lives, then it was all worth it. The crowd erupted in applause. Weeks later, Gerald stood at a lectern addressing a packed room of union workers, engineers, and students. Behind him hung a banner, Safety First, Lessons from the D42 Scandal. He told them about attention to detail, moral courage, and the power of one person to spark change. He passed his mop handle across the stage, now polished and mounted as a symbol of quiet integrity. Next to him, Elise and Lana beamed. On the front row, families of tenants evacuated from defective buildings waved signs. Thank you, Gerald, and truth over profit. Gerald's voice caught. Remember, he said, when the world says you're just a janitor or someone insignificant, know that your integrity matters. Your voice matters. Gerald walked down a sunny sidewalk, the mop over his shoulder, escorted not by security, but by a group of volunteers carrying safety manuals. A new chapter awaited him, consulting for building safety reforms, teaching, and mentoring. As he passed the old Halberton HQ, its windows dark but its marble still gleaming, he smiled. The company had tried to bury the truth. Instead, it had unearthed the courage of an ordinary man, and that courage would never fade.